Welcome back. This is the third video in the series of excretion, and here I'll be explaining the final thing, which is selective reabsorption. Okay, it's called selective because not all the materials are reabsorbed, only some are reabsorbed, which are required by the body. So we are we have in front of us the nephron, and we will see what is actually the thing that is what substance are reabsorbed and what are not reabsorbed, which is very important for us to understand very clearly. So here, let's use pencil so then it becomes clearer. We have this region over here. This one is the proximal convoluted tubule. This is the first region. Okay, this proximal convoluted tubule is this region over here. Okay, there is very different kind of reabsorption taking place over here. So we have this special diagram which just elaborates the filtration at the proximal convoluted tubule. Okay, so let's look at this diagram over here. Okay, let us zoom out a bit so that we can get it clearly. And here the diagram. Now here we can see that this is the proximal convoluted tubule wall. Okay, this is the wall. This is the region. This is this region over here. Okay, this is the wall. This is the wall. Okay. Oh, sorry, this one. This is the wall, and we have substances which move this way, and we have some that move back here. And one of the things that move here this way, when this is inside the proximal convoluted, the contents are moving down. Okay, but some are reabsorbed. Okay, and one of the substances that are reabsorbed is sodium. Sodium moves through here by diffusion. You should understand that this region, it moves by diffusion because they are less here, they are more here, so they move by diffusion. But then there comes this basement membrane where it has to transport by active transport, and this is the region where ATP changes to ADP. This just means that energy was required. Okay, because when ATP is broken down to ADP, energy is given out. So energy was given out for moving sodium inside. At the same time, as sodium moves inside, together with sodium move glucose and amino acids. So these are like supplements, like, okay, sodium is going, let's go with him, something like that. They move along with sodium because they don't facilitate this active transport and all, but then they get a chance to move with sodium when these protein channels are open, because you should remember that active transport takes place along the protein channel. So when the protein channels open, glucose and amino acid move together with sodium, and amino and sodium is moving on one side because potassium are more outside here than here, so potassium comes on right hand side. So potassium, here we can see potassium moves this way. Okay, potassium moves this way, and that's what happens over here. So that's with sodium, glucose and amino acid. Now one thing more is that even water and urea move, but in a little amount. Okay, water and urea move this way, but very less. We can say maybe few percent, like 10% or something. So it's not significant, and that's why it's not mentioned in the diagram here. Okay, and the last thing which we should know over here is that creatinine. Okay, if you remember, we said there were these two, this one, and this one, uric acid. These are together with urea. We said urea moves, right? Moves back to the blood, because if it's moving this way, means it's moving back to the blood. Means if we take this diagram, means it's moving back to the blood, so it's going back to the blood, to the heart and all those regions. So we have it in our body. But if it does not move back, means it's going out of the body. So it's good if if an excretory product does not move back. Okay. So but in this case, creatinine and uric acid does not move back, so they go out. So they do not move back to the blood, they go direct out. So creatinine and uric acid, they go out of the body. So hopefully that's clear. And then the reabsorption at the loop of Henle. Now loop of Henle uses this fancy term. Term is let me write it here so that you should not forget it, and it should be very clear to you. Counter current multiply. Okay, multiply. This is just a fancy word, but then it doesn't have so much big deal. Like if you'll hear, the only thing this means, it's like there is a correlation, there is a relationship, there is this partnership between sodium chloride and water to move the substance in such a way that we get a constant amount of water in the urine. Okay, so there is like this partnership. Okay, we cooperate and we make sure that the amount of water in the urine is always the same. If it's 65%, which is the average, then it's always 65%. It shouldn't be higher, it shouldn't be low. Of course, adenine, ADH also take a part in it, so we don't want to get in that details. But in short, what happens here is in this region, let's name this region. This is the first region and this is the second region, right? So here the concentration of water is let's start with this region. Okay, this is the ascending limb. Okay, this is the ascending limb. Okay, so in the ascending limb, because this sodium and chlorine moves up, the concentration is more inside than outside, so they diffuse out. Okay, the sodium chloride diffuse out, they go out of this blood. Okay, when they go out of this this filtrate, remember that outside is blood, inside is filtrate, so they move out in the blood. Okay, they go to the blood because the concentration in the blood is more in the ascending limb. Okay, as they move here, there is more outside, so they move this way. Now when they move this way, the concentration of sodium and the concentration here is more, so automatically what happens over here is that when water enters here, it wants to go out because the concentration outside is more, so the water wants to go out. Okay, and again when this comes out until it reaches over here, its concentration of water is already low and concentration of sodium chloride is already high. So if concentration of sodium chloride is already high, the sodium chloride will move out. It's a bit confusing if you don't get it, but it's simply like the water that starts over here, when it will reach here, it will become concentrated. Okay, so it will lose its sodium chloride. But then again, this concentration over here will cause this water to be concentrated as it reaches here. So it's like this very fancy kind of thing happening over here, which is termed as counter current multiplier. Hope that's clear. And the last thing over here is in this distal collecting tube, which is this distal convoluted tubule, which is the last region, and this is divided into two regions. There is this region. This region acts the same as the first region acts the same as ascending limb by removing the excess sodium chloride, so and the water. Like here water moves and sodium chloride moves until that average amount, like in the average person 65% of water is obtained. Okay, this happens in the distal convoluted tubule, the first region. In the second region, it's this collecting tube. So in the collecting duct, the second region is the collecting ducts. So in the collecting ducts, this ADH permeability is there, where this is the region where really ADH takes part, and where water is removed according to the amount it is required, like it's always constant, and this one makes sure of the 65%. So that's all about this, and these numbers I think is the concentration numbers. And and the last thing maybe we should understand about this excretion is the structure over here, that this part is always in the cortex, and this part is in the medulla. Okay, so in the medulla we have, in this region we have this the loops and all those, and here up we have these glomerulars and all those. We have seen even here, so that's very clear. And also one thing more we should be very clear with is about the concentration of this urine is always constant. Okay, and finally we get a urine which goes here, like it's go to the bladder and all, and gives you a urine. Okay, which is a waste product, and it should be removed from the body. Okay, so that's all about excretion. Hope you understood the topic well. If there is any question, you can ask me. You can post the question down, and I'll try to answer it. And if there is any mistake, please you can write down the correction for it, as that might help other people to not do mistakes. Thank you for listening.